I came to Germany, did my research for 6 years in the world's best drop tower. I see so many scientists working on phenomenal things, but they never have like the end game of putting this into the world. That people get the motivation and the background for, oh, I have this great material, I have this great technology, but they never do anything with it. They just publish it and that's it. And sometimes it dies. I really wanted to move my product from the laboratory. I have a technology that can help the world, but I wanted to take the next step and actually make the bridge from academic life to putting a new technology into the world where mankind can benefit from.
Hi Martin, thank you so much for coming to the live for Founder. How's it going?
Good. Thanks, Max. Thanks for having me today. This is quite a pleasure and an honor.
My pleasure, the honor is all mine. So, the live Founder is about you. It's, of course, as an entrepreneur, there is a lot of business behind, but it's exactly what is behind the business because we always talk about startups, we always talk about ventures, but we forget that venture is about people. And so I really like to talk about the founders. I find their lives so exciting. I'm a founder myself, so 5 times. So how challenging it is, and that's why I decided to see how founders live the entrepreneurial life. So it's very exciting for me. Would you like to give me a picture yourself, where you come from, or it all started one day?
I have a background in material science, and I used to work at the Colorado School of Mines. We had a NASA center there, and we put a project into outer space. But during that time, I used to ride this plane called the Vomit Comet, which was quite exciting. So for about 5 years, I did this research, and in microgravity would make new materials. And I started with bone scaffolding materials. And back then, I was researching. We have a patent for this bioresorbable bone scaffolding material. So if you're in an accident, especially for craniofacial reconstruction, if you're missing bone, this material is implanted and natural bone can grow in its place, eat it, and then form natural bone. But I was making some other materials at that time that were a substitute than the bioresorbable ones. And I really saw that, oh, these materials, they just failed in the biomedical world, but they have really good electronic structures. So I thought, okay, it's so hard to get FDA approval and this and that. Plus, the our investors that we were with at that time, it was a Bioselzer Medica. It was an old German firm in the U.S. They went out of business as well. So I thought, oh, it's really hard to do biomaterials because it takes so long with the FDA. But these materials have really good electronic properties. And back then, this is a long time ago, so over 20 years ago, I saw a big focus in the regime of energy and power consumption and global warming. So I thought, why not focus my research on energy efficient materials, trying to save resources and energy and make something new. And so that's what I did. Then I ventured out of the US to Japan. I worked with AIST and their space program, JAXA. There we had this drop tower in Hokkaido at the AIST center there. And when you drop something in a vacuum or you drop something inside of a drag shield where the air catches the drag shield, but inside that your experiment falls with no drag, you're falling with gravity. And it's in this time it's called microgravity that you can synthesize new and different materials because these heavy objects, they no longer sink and you don't have this hot air rising phenomena, cool air falling phenomena. You actually have a very homogeneous heating regime, so you can really synthesize these new materials in a very short duration of time. So there I worked on this special glass. If it was able to form in microgravity, you could stretch one end here from Germany all the way to New York under the ocean. You don't need amplifiers, repeaters. You can send light through it in both directions simultaneously, and it would really, really save on energy for the telecommunications world. Then a guy I knew from NASA when I was doing the flights, he was out of Los Alamos, and he built a drop tower in Australia. And I met him at a conference there. I remember his research. We talked. He said, "Oh, hey, why don't you come run the tower?" And I was like, "Okay." So I moved to Australia. I started to run the tower. There, I did past research for when I took the bone synthesis material or bone scaffolding materials to electronic world. I started work on these materials for dye sensitized solar cells to try to improve efficiency in this subclass of photovoltaics. And I continued my glass research, but I was really teaching too much and doing the students' experiments, and so there wasn't much progress there. I pitched my idea for when I came to Germany. So I had this one material that I knew would work. I had, pitched for it many times in Australia to these government entities for funding research, which they just said it was a pipe dream. But the Germans, so in Germany and Bremen, we have the world's best drop tower. It is phenomenal. And so I wrote this proposal to come to Germany, and I was expecting them to say, oh, the global financial crisis. But they said, oh, no, this is great. They handed it to DLR, the Deutsches Luft- and Raumfahrt. This is the aerospace funding entity here in Germany. And there was a program called InnoSpace, so innovations from space, taking innovations and actually commercializing them. So I came to Germany, did my research for 6 years in the world's best drop tower, and I really wanted to move my product from the laboratory. I see so many scientists working on phenomenal things, but they never have like the end game of putting this into the world. They publish, of course, and then some people try to take their research and do it, but a lot of failure that way. But I wanted to go directly from the laboratory to people, so I have developed a new energy efficient electroluminescent material. This is like an LED, but different. But you can make it into panels. You can coat plastics. It has the full spectra for vertical farming. That's the direction we're going now. So this means right now for vertical farming and people growing cannabis, they use so many different LED lights. And these are not the LED lights you use in your home. Those are energy efficient. These are not. They have to have specific wavelengths and intensities, whereas my lights can provide the complete spectra. As I said, you can make it a foldable panel. So this is where the cannabis industry likes because they want to wrap their plants with it as well. And so this is where I am. 6 years at the university here. A little sad story. Corona came around. I lost my initial investors. They were based out of Cologne. Um, Due to Corona, they had to put their company on what's called Kurzarbeit, this short working period, and they couldn't recover from that and couldn't invest in me afterwards. But so I decided to go out on my own and have a little bit of funding from our regional bank here, the Sparkasse Bank. They have a business accelerator here, and I've been doing that, trying to work my way upwards and forwards. So that's a little about my background and part of the motivation which started me.
This is your background, and you've done a lot of research, teaching, university, and so on. But why did you decide to take the venture? I mean, being an entrepreneur is a different story. It's very challenging.
Yeah, well, again, the whole reason was that I have a technology that can help the world, and I really I hate it that when I go to these scientific conferences, people give the motivation and the background for, oh, I have this great material, I have this great technology, but they never do anything with it. They just publish it and that's it. And sometimes it dies, even though they get a someone else may get a patent out of it, it just dies. But I wanted to take the next step and actually make the bridge from academic life to putting a new technology into the world where mankind can benefit from. So, again, saving energy and reducing the amount of greenhouse gases we put into the atmosphere is my motivation as well.
You say something so right. There is so much academy, so little move to the real world. I find this extremely complicated for many.
Yeah,
There are so many published research, but when it comes to spin-off, this kind of stuff and moving to create a company, actually give the funding and make this working for the people, everything comes so difficult. And
yeah.
still asking to myself why. Still such a huge complication and this huge missed bridge between the academy and the industry. They
Well,
actually they talk very little.
yeah, if you look at it from an investor point of view, this is where I'm forced to look at it now. You want the greatest return on investment. And right now, you have fintech, you have SaaS, you have all of these IT technologies where the capital that they need is just a server bank, a laptop, and that's it. They develop all the code. So the capital cost for that and the return on investment is much quicker and higher. Whereas, I need a small laboratory. I need to build a very small, simple drop tower, which sounds very complex, which is very not complex. And you lose your investors into this thought process. They can't say, okay, well, oh, we can see the benefits, we can do that, but it's not quick. Nobody really wants to invest in this long haul. The large companies, which I pitched to, BOE, Sony, Samsung, they see the technology right away. You give them a technical data sheet, they're great, but their level investment is already to be scaled up. And for me, I need this low level investment to scale up and to convince these smaller investors to give me seed money. It's extremely difficult. So, real technologies that are hands on, that are scientific, that are materials, yeah, there's a big step to overcome to actually get out of the laboratory, find funding, and go forward. I can see how a lot of people will quit and continue with an academic life, or hand their technologies over to a small company that already has development in these areas that'll take it to 100% rather than pay for the patent, pay for this, and do things like that. And I've seen companies fail in Japan when I was working at the research laboratory there, but they took the venture and tried to do it very cheaply, inefficiently. But to have the scientist, the expert, go along the path of putting this into the world, making a firm from this, then I think you have a better and more successful chance. But this is the first time that I've done this. Pitching, I've pitched and pitched and pitched, even in Australia. And you basically you pitch when you ask for research money as well. So it's much different pitching to investors than research bodies and research funds, and that's another skill is very vital to putting this in the world, is how to convince investors, which is hard to do when they can find an easier return on investment with IT technologies. So it's a challenge.
It is. That's the short view, right? So
Yeah,
that's the short view behind a different way how we structure funds. Because funds must turn the money and must turn the money in maximum 10 years. That's the average, 7, 10.
yeah,
We
yeah,
are forced to find something that pays you fast and possibly 5, 10, 20 times return. And when it comes to project like yours, life is long. You can wait
yeah,
probably decades sometime. And they don't have this, they don't have the structure to do so. So it's not only about willing, it's about also the investors you're talking to. Probably in your case, corporations are well positioned, endowments, this kind of they can wait for long because they will be there for long and they don't need to give the money back to nobody. But when you
yeah.
talk funds, funds are very strict in rules behind. So they are not the best player for project like yours. But uh, we talk about motivation. What's the feeling that you had today in running this business? When you talk to them, they can understand you, or if they understand you, they don't have the horizon that you have.
Well, as we talked about before, you said you had talked to some Americans, and they were coming to London, I believe. And I'm always, it's like I said before, with research. Usually, you follow the money of the governments or what facilities they're building, and they have a focus. Some have a focus on life sciences in space. Some have focus on materials in space. And I've traveled around the world, and now I can see a focus in the U.S. going back to materials. So I this Bremen is the home of the world's best drop tower. I did all my research here. It's a nice city, but I have pitched primarily, not solely, primarily to European and German-based companies. But now I think I need to venture outside of Bremen and possibly pitch back to the United States, and get a feeling for how the market is there. So it might be better opportunities elsewhere, whereas the economies are constantly changing and people are looking for different technologies. There has, there's quite a bit of flooding of the market for these small IT companies. So might be a chance now to pitch a scientific idea back in the US. It's it's just how the market goes and where people are looking, and yeah, it might be a good idea to go back home and pitch a bit and see what happens.
It's a different story. Americans, Europeans are very. In Europe, you find a good level of knowledge, absolutely. Very prepared people. But when it comes to investments, that's a different story. There is no even possible to compare Europe with US. The level of risk that Americans are willing to take is 100 times the level of risk the Europeans. I was born in Italy. I know Europe very well. But I talk and I go to US so many times, and the difference is massive. It's huge. Maybe for projects like yours, needs of funding and a different perspective in terms of return. I don't know if Euro is exactly the best place to be. But for the research, yes. For the money coming, no. But so many Americans are investing in Europe, established startups because it's cheaper. There is nothing to do. You
Yeah,
pay less,
yeah.
and also in somehow it's convenient because anyway education is here, as in US, pretty much the same level. But let's talk about more about yourself. How do you balance your life? You must be very busy. Do you find this entrepreneurial life taking too much time from you? Maybe if you have a family.
Yeah. I have two daughters. I have a dog. Um, but work balance. I'm a workaholic. Period. Anyways, I like to work. I really enjoy my research. I really enjoy putting together pitch presentations, doing the marketing strategy. I really enjoy it because it's again based on my passion. So I have no trouble. I can. It's nice because I can uh, take care of my daughters and then do my research or do my startup on later, late in the evening, early in the morning. But it always seems to work out quite nice. I have no trouble balancing that. I have make time to take my daughters on trips and do things like that with them. Go skateboarding. We go hiking. Many things. Go golfing. So yeah, it's quite nice, and it's also nice too that if I ever want to, I can go do a little bit of exercise during the day. Because in Germany, you don't have really good weather. It rains all the time. This is the rainy season started now, and today we have great weather. I could go out and walk the dog and go for a run, and then come back and just work the rest of the evening or the afternoon when it rains. So yeah, it's I think I I have no trouble with that. It's really nice. It's a big topic here in Germany, this work life balance. But I, I I like working. I work all the time, so it's okay, and I enjoy my life as well. It's nice here.
If you do what you like, you're not working. That's the point.
Yeah,
I work as well, but people when they talk to me and say, "Okay, you're a workaholic," I say, "What do they mean?" I mean, I'm spending probably 10, 12 hours per day working. That's true, but I'm truly doing what I like to do. So when I go home, if my partner she will listen to me or she will hate me, I get bored. I get
yeah,
simply bored. I don't know what to do. I mean, yeah, I talk 30 minutes and I say, "Oh my God, now I should do." And I think we're born for working, so that's fine. We are doing what we
yeah.
like to do. Do you have any routine? Do you give yourself any formal routine to keep yourself in balance?
Well, that's the thing about startups. So most of the events are a weekday in the evening, which is nice. So you go to a pitch event or a what do you call it? A networking event, and they're usually in the evening time. So that leaves a whole day to prepare or do whatever. So there's never a set routine or a set schedule. It's just nice to you have your calendar appointments. You prepare for what you're going to do. You meet with whoever you're going to meet at whatever time, and there's a lot of blocks in between where you can prepare and you have time for preparing, and then again doing other things, making lunches, making dinners, making breakfasts, yeah, and walking the dog.
You moved as I said before, from academy to entrepreneurship, and but being entrepreneur is a different story, right? Totally different.
Yeah.
Uh, Have you ever thought that's not for me? It's better if I go to academy, be an entrepreneur. Maybe it's too challenging. I mean, what's your feeling today? And which are your thoughts? What are them? I'm the most
Um,
qualified.
I think you have to be a little risk adverse or crazy to do it. But if you truly think and you know your product's going to work and you have a passion for doing it, yeah, I make the bridge, go from academic life to this entrepreneurial world. And my parents, both of them had their own companies as well, so maybe that was a little bit inspiring to me. They to go to college, go to university, to get a PhD, to move into that direction. It takes a long time, but yeah, I think you just have to be a little bit crazy and persevere, and hopefully good things happen. If not, you've accomplished something that a lot of people haven't done, and they haven't taken that risk, and you have a good story to tell here on Equity Match as well.
You must, I mean, to do something different, you must have a different approach to life, period. To do
Yeah,
something great, you must be crazy enough to believe you can do this. Steve Jobs was so ahead, all right? And he was the one who said, I need to be crazy to believe that I can make this done, but I did. And
yeah,
it's a different story how there are people who really want stability and you will never do something great in your life. The people are willing to lose everything as long as they can still dreaming and hoping they can dare one day. They're the one who's going to change. Maybe one out of 1 million, not even 1,000. But they are the one
yeah.
who can change everything for a very long time. What do you like to do the most? You have a busy day. In this busy day, which are the tasks do you really enjoy? So, well, I'm going to enjoy it.
I really, it's the challenging part is trying to convince investors, and that one I really enjoy because it is a challenge. You really have to tell them your story, tell them what you've done, and try to convince them you have the best product in the world. But I have a good one, so that part is challenging. I enjoy a challenge. I enjoy things that don't come easy, that you have to work hard for, and you learn how to do it and overcome these great barriers. I already finished the challenge of getting my PhD and going through that. I've finished the challenge of learning Japanese, going to Australia, learning German. I must say my Japanese is better than my German, but that's a challenging too, is to overcome these cultural barriers, to learn about other people's cultures, beliefs, norms, and then form that into a conversation and relate to them on a personal level, and then show them, what you've done and how to do things. So that's part of the pitching process as well, is knowing your audience and explaining to them in a manner that they can relate to, and just hoping for the best. So I enjoy challenges. I enjoy new hard things to do that seem impossible. That's you have to work very very hard to do, and that part I like. I think if I was in a very stable life, it would just be too mundane, and I'd be still looking for another challenge on the side. But I enjoy challenges. I really do. And these complex life puzzles, putting things together, learning rules and regulations, and yeah, I mean, with this new material I developed here, we patented. That was a very hard thing to do here in Germany, but it's almost done. The patent will come in 2 months, and very proud of that. That's another huge puzzle that had to be solved, and yeah, but doable.
US, Germany, and Japan. These are three very tough players. You were born in US, but Japan and Germany, it's like night and day. And
Yeah, yeah,
seriously, night and day. So
yeah.
it's something. Did you find difficult to place yourself in such a different places?
Well, it really helped when I was at the Colorado School of Mines, and I was, surrounded by international students. That was an eye opener. You could learn about other people's cultures and how they work, and I needed measurements made in one laboratory, and I had to talk to this one guy. And if you were nice to him or bought him a beer, he'd put you on the top of the list, and your experiments would get done. My Chinese colleague, she had smaller hands than me, and we had to put these very small thermocouples in. So I would barter with her. I said, "Oh, you put all these tiny thermocouples into our experiments, and I'll do all this other work," which was more heavy lifting. And yeah, so it was nice to make these connections. We had the Germans came to do parabolic flights with us. I manifested their experiments on one of our KC-135 vomit comet experiments. And turns out one of the head guys was Martin Zell from the head of ESA. But at that time, he was part of Daimler Chrysler Aerospace. And I took him up this mountain to see Buffalo's Bill's grave in Colorado, and they loved it. I had this old car, and they thought that was funny that I picked them up, but I took them on a tour, and just that ability to connect and see how people work. Had a really good Japanese colleague come to work with me in the lab. I really loved the way he works, so I asked them, is there opportunity to go to Japan? And that's what opened up the doors for me to go over to Japan. Same thing with working with the guys here at ZARM at the drop tower. I met them every year at these microgravity meetings and just kept in touch. And I came to Bremen as well a long time ago for a conference here. But it's just talking to people, seeing what they're doing, keeping in touch with them, and um, you know learning the norms and values of other people, and just keeping a very good open relationship too is good as well.
I think is there is no way you can give a price such a huge learning. If you
Yeah.
say if you move from US to Japan, Japan to Europe, you've done so much already because the cultures are so different. You must have
And Australia.
Australia, sorry.
Yeah.
You're
Australia,
done.
then Germany.
You're done. When you can find yourself in such different places, which means your brain can work very well, and you can adapt in a very great way. And the level of knowledge that you get from these places, it's unbelievable. I work with Japanese. They are absolutely crazy when it comes to work. I never seen such a methodic way to work in my life. Everyone can teach you something. That's the point. Everyone.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
use some tool to use in the future. Uh, you must have a lot of motivation behind, right? But how do you keep yourself motivated? Because there are days where things are not going well.
Yeah, I haven't received the amount of funding that I need, not even close. But I think motivation comes from what you can't forget about what you've done in the past, what you've accomplished. It's a slow building process, but I think motivation comes from within. I wake up every day. I'm motivated to wake up. I like doing 1,000 things every day. So again, maybe it's maybe a little bit crazy, but still motivated in the same way. There's keeping a positive perspectives of what you're doing, how you're doing things, and continuing forward is a good thing. And then always planning the future, always having like, okay, there's a concert I want to go to next month, or this and that. I'm going to go to my friend's Halloween party. Take my children to go see this festival here in Germany. Like that keeps me motivated as well as my leisure time and what I do on the side as well, and the motivation to do that too. So I think also a bit of exercise. I need a little bit more, but I go out every day, walk the dog. We went running yesterday. Can't really tell, but yeah, I think exercise helps as well.
As American working in Europe and living in Europe, how do you cope with failure, with the European concept of failure?
I can't speak for all of Europe. I have do know a lot of Europeans, but Germany again is a very different place in Europe, um, and especially northern Germany. So the people here are not as friendly as other places, but they once you get to know them, once you work with them, once you especially start to speak the language, more doors open, and it becomes nice on both sides. It becomes nice for living in the society, being around the people that can help you, and you can help them. Yeah, I think language is key. Language is the key. Learning the language of the place where you're living in is great. We have this awesome. It's called Nebenan. It's your neighbors. It's this neighbor website thing. You register in your own neighborhood, and it's cool because everybody here is very trustworthy, which is wonderful. And somebody might need help doing this, or somebody's giving away this and that, and so I volunteer on there sometimes to help older people with fix their computers, There's a disabled elderly man. I fixed his bicycle, and yeah. Then afterwards, you kind of talk to them for a while, and usually you drink a beer, and yeah, it's nice. It's fun. It's a good way to connect as well.
Hey, what's your take on the venture capital ecosystem, the tech, the research ecosystem, the way how technology investments and universities are working together? Do you think we do enough or we must improve a lot? I do believe we must improve.
I think Techstars. So you're Italian, and Techstars works really well in the U.S. It works really well in Italy. I think that's a good program. As far as Germany goes, I think they're a bit behind on the curve, but they're catching up. So here in the small town Bremen, we are not the center of startups. The center of startups in Germany is Berlin. But here we have Startups Bremen. They help and organize different networking events with incorporations of the university, startup program, this Start House Bremen program, and this brand new Sparkasse, that's our bank, business accelerator. And so they're starting to agglomerate and communicate together, work together rather than separately. And I think that's starting to develop this startup culture here in Bremen. We also have the ISA BIC here, the ISA Business Incubator. Um, and this is a new program too. They just stepped away where you had to come in with 50% funds of your own to 100%. They would fund you 100%. So as long as you have a good team and you're already incorporated, then you can apply for funding there. So here in Germany, it's starting to ramp up, at least here in Bremen. For these, especially we're in a technological and aerospace sector here in Bremen rather than IT. But it's coming around. So there is it's on the onset of growing, and it might not be so bad in the future. But right now, it's really hard to find these investors here. And every time you go to a pitching competition, there's everybody and just fewer little investors. So they'll come. They'll start to see the equity that's can be provided here as far as space and space sciences and aerospace and satellite technology go. Um, but it's starting. So as far as Germany goes, yes, I pitched in Berlin. A lot more investors when I go to networking and expos there. A lot more investors than here in Bremen, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. As far as Europe goes, I mean, we have the world's largest tech summit. That is the web summit in Lisbon every year. I pitched at that last year with it was called a beta, and that's pre-seed, and that was wonderful. That's where I actually met Sony, Samsung, BOE, a lot of these large screen producers, and had the chance to talk to them, and they immediately were like, okay, call us as soon as you've scaled up. So Bremen is small, but we're growing. Europe has huge opportunities, especially with this web summit. And then also in Bremen, since Bremen is a space city, we have the largest space expo in all of Europe. It's called the Space Tech Expo, and they match it with the other one in the U.S. in California as well. So there's a big one in California, a big one here, and that's a really nice opportunity to meet people that are funding software. I'm not software, satellite technology and materials technology.
Wait, if you can sit with world leaders, what will you change? What do you ask them to do that for you does not work? And this also outside the investment, technology, and so on.
World leaders, hard to work with, hard to say. But I would put an emphasis on the future of our children, the future of our planet, global warming, and then prioritize from there. I think that's the future is energy and energy efficient materials, and reducing the consumption of electricity and from fossil fuel power plants and so forth. So I would put an emphasis on new materials and energy efficient materials and the direction of clean energy with the world leaders. And I would make that a big priority. I mean, you can see the polar caps just melting and the temperature every year going up. This is the hottest, warmest I've ever seen Brisbane this year. I mean, it's October and last week it was like almost summer. This week the temperature went down, but yeah, I'm looking outside right now. It looks beautiful. It's not extremely cold, but things are changing. You know, it's growing up in Colorado and watching the snow disappear and disappear, disappear, and then having all these crazy snowstorms in April and May is just bizarre. So yeah, the world's changing, and we need to reverse some of the processes that we are growing to and we've adopted, and our mindset as well. So I'd ask the leaders to change, you know, significantly towards, you know, a cleaner future. Great job, and Germany does a great job. Italy as well. They we need to push that to the other world, the third world countries, and really try to develop there.
Yeah, I mean, the problem of putting together clean energy, it's very complicated. I mean, there are too many things that must play together. On one
Yeah,
hand, you need to please the people. On the other hand, you need to please the climate. But after there is politics. So if you're pushing, I can see. I mean, okay, UK, where I live now in London, politics has been a disaster. I used to politics in Italy. I left Italy because it was too bad, and now in UK for the last 3 years, it's an absolute disaster. But Sunak had to pull back all the things I was thinking, even carbon free by 2030, because opinion was too bad. People believe they
yeah,
can lose the job. And so we want things done, but we want to pay the price for things to be
yeah,
done. Someone must do for us. And this is why I can't see any light, I have to be honest. Uh, for me, personally, I can't see any light at all.
yeah,
We already failed completely because to 2030 won't happen anything. We are probably 10, 20 years behind schedule. So how can we get there? I have no idea. I have to be honest. Actually, I'm asking you because you know much more than me on this. How we get there? If we keep doing what we're doing, 100% talks, 0.5% facts.
yeah. It's this is a change in regime. This is a change in basic finance and um, economy. So we really have to reform the economy to some sort of sustainable economy development, not this exponential growth which we've adopted from years and years of capitalism. So it's a basic change for mankind. It's implementation of huge costs in social tax. So social tax to compensate for these. Um, Natural resources that we exploit. So it sounds next to impossible, but leave that to the politicians. Tell them that's the direction they have to go and see what happens there. But in reality, again, I think development of new technologies that are energy efficient are the way to go. New power that might be come later comes along the line. I mean, energy storage with hydrogen. More research there into the safety of storage of hydrogen, but you know we've mankind has blocked a lot of these technologies with leaders in energy and automobile industry. We need to you know go the opposite direction and bring them out and energy saving electricity and new modes of transportation that are cheap and sustainable. It's almost impossible, but to you know make this focus and put more money into this driving range rather than war and defense, you can accomplish that.
The more I read and the less I believe we get there. So I was reading 85% of energy still produced with carbon fuel.
Yeah,
Carbon fuel, sorry. We sell a fraction of EV compared to the to fossil fuel car using combustion, right?
yeah,
How do we get there? There is no. I don't want to go to the discussion because there is no way we can get there. We can get there today, but we are not doing, not even thinking, doing enough. We are doing almost nothing to get there.
yeah,
So I had no idea. We were burned one day to 40 degree in December. And this is where
Yeah,
we're going. This is where we're going. Anyway,
yeah.
uh, which are the things that you really believe you're willing to fight for?
I saw a future in the materials and the synthesis process that I was using to make advanced materials. Though I really believe in that, and I really believe in the materials that I made. These electroluminescent materials that are greatly are energy savings to provide a full spectrum for plant growth. In the Netherlands, northern Germany, a lot of the cannabis people, you can really cut down on costs there for themselves as far as energy. Plus, it's a green technology. You're cutting down on using these fossil fuels from the power plants. So that's what I really believed in. That's what I've stayed in tune with, and that's where I'm still going forward. Other technologies that I developed, rather the one that I focus on with my startup, all are in line and in parallel with this same belief as well. So yes, we use the supercomputer network here in Germany, thousands and thousands of processors to do these numerical simulations of the crystal structures of our materials to try to figure out which one is the most energy efficient, then go back to the laboratory, try to make that. And we have a feedback process to do that as well. So I think IT is still there. It's a viable technology as far as supercomputing and solid state um, physics go, and there's still a lot to learn, especially with this new AI learning to go back and do these um, parallel, simultaneous simulations with laboratory production to try to make these a greater, huge improvement in efficiencies of materials. Photovoltaics is going to jump much higher with this type of technology, as well as far as energy storage materials, light emitting materials. There's quite a way to go. We're on the precipice to onset for that, but again, unfortunately, it takes a lot of time and money to do. It takes a lot of energy to do as well. So you're spending a lot of energy just to save on energy. But again, if we focus on that rather than these wars that are happening across the world and defense and spending for these spy satellites, so we'd be ahead of the game right now if we could focus on that.
What's the best book and author?
Like a lot of books, there's a collection of punk rock interviews. I like reading interviews. This is from Ian McKay and Discord Records, and a lot of the interviews were taken from an old zine called Maximum Rock and Roll. These are fun to read. They're very old. They give a lot of the history for what we're listening to now. Ray Bradbury, I've always been a fan of Ray Bradbury, and he wrote this collection of short stories, and there was one that it had different names, and it was originally called The Veld, and it's kind of cool. It's with these little kids that are just spoiled rotten, and they're brought up by technology, and the the computers and robots take care of them, and their parents kind of just they're like, oh, this kind of like modern days. They let their kids play on the phones, which I hate, and so they have this room, and it's this virtual reality room where you can smell and you can hear these animals, and they're always using this simulation of Africa and the lions. And the parents try to take the technology away from the kids, and it's like taking the handy away from your child now. And then the kids get all mad, and then the parents said, "Okay, let go." And finally, I think the parents wanted to go cold turkey, stop them, and the kids locked them into this room, and it was so real. It sounded like the lions had eaten the parents and chomping on the bones, and so that was the end of the story. Was the kids locked their parents in the room because they wouldn't let them have all this new technology. And I thought that was really funny and comical and quite surreal. But a story written 20, 30 years ago, almost 40 years ago, that kind of applied to this modern day of technology is quite astonishing. So Ray Bradbury, a collection of short stories. It's wonderful.
And the best movie and actor?
Oh, I have tons. I like movies. I love the director Tim Burton, and he made a movie called Pee Wee Herman. Paul Rubens, who recently passed away, and that I love Pee Wee Herman. My mom hated that when I was a kid and drove her crazy, but it's a really funny comedian, very funny story. about this guy who loses his bike and has to go find his bike. But yeah, I like Pee Wee's Big Adventure.
The best lesson that life gave to you so far.
Oh, I think every day there's a new story, a new lesson to be learned. I think I, there's so many experiences to grow from. So I think for me, learning about other people's cultures and languages and moving around the world and be able to do business and science and relate to people is a great story to learn. It's a great lesson to learn. Um, and it's a wonderful experience.
And your greatest wish?
My greatest wish, of course, is to get a little bit of funding so I can put this new technology into the world. Yeah, and reduce global warming and energy savings as well. That's right now my greatest wish, but a little bit personal. But yeah, I hope there's not so much war in the future. It's just nuts how mankind is kind of going crazy. We need to change, and my greatest wish is that we can change peacefully.
So let's close with a recommendation. If you can recommend something to the founders watching, the majority watching this podcast of founders, what can tell them?
Don't quit. Don't quit. Don't quit. Keep trying. Keep trying. Keep trying. It's a hard thing to do, and if you have a good product, you have something that can help people, then don't stop and don't listen to people that'll say, "Oh, you should do this. You should do that. Change this. Change this." If you can do it in a positive way and take their suggestions, yes. But if they're saying, you should quit and do this, then yeah, don't do that. Keep going. Persevere. Good things will happen.
You're right. You are the only one who know how far you can go and what you are capable, to do. The others, what I can tell you, nothing.
Yeah.
Martin, thank you so much for coming to the Live and Fun. It's been a very great pleasure for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Max. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.